Tonight on CTV News, Ngāi Tahu approaches council about their view for the future Christchurch. An earthquake memorial is chosen, and a pop star entertains thousands of students for National Youth Leadership Day.
Broadcasting across Canterbury, from the CTV studio, this is First at 5.
Kia ora, good evening. A remembrance wall will be the Christchurch Earthquake Memorial. The design was chosen from 6 shortlisted proposals that were put forth earlier this year. After nearly a year of working to come up with a concept for Cantabrians and those affected overseas to remember the devastating earthquakes, a design has been chosen. Earthquake Recovery Minister Jerry Brownlee told a crowd of families and those immediately affected by the earthquakes today the winning proposal at the Botanic Gardens Visitor Centre. Up to $10 million has been put aside by the government to go towards the memorial, with an extra $1 million coming out of the Christchurch Earthquake Mural Relief Fund. After an evaluation panel considered the design, the memorial wall structure was selected by Minister Brownlee. And he says it wasn't an easy decision to make.
But in the end, you choose one that's going to be the most suitable and is going to be, I suppose, most complementary to that lovely site, but also be a place that is a bit of a standout as far as these sort of remembering places are in our city.
Sylvanian architect Gregor Zaverkiak was chosen for his design, selected from the 5 other shortlisted proposals. His concept will see a remembrance wall on the corner of Memorial Street and Oxford Terrace, featuring a line of trees and names on the memorial to remember those who lost their lives 4 years ago. It
will be a place for remembering and for memory for many generations to come.
Back in July last year, a call went out to memorial architects from here and abroad to come up with a design that met the brief. It had to honour all the 185 people who lost their lives in the February 2011 earthquake, to remember and give thanks to the recovery organisations locally and internationally, and a place where an annual memorial gathering can be held every year on February 22nd. A month later, 331 entries were sent in from 37 countries, with the designs shortlisted to 6. Now the winning proposal will go through a few design tweaks and changes before the construction starts, with the memorial expected to be officially opened next year. Jared McCulloch, CTV News. And Minister Nikki Wagner will join me later on in the program to discuss today's announcement. Well, Ngāi Tahu made history today. It's the first time the iwi has made a submission to the council planning meeting. But just what does the iwi want for the city's future? Here's Marcus Gibbs.
Bringing a cultural flair to the Christchurch City Council. Ngāi Tahu making history in the council chambers for the first time.
We value the steps that the Mayor and her council has taken to date, as well as the senior staff, to start building an effective relationship with us, and we look forward to progressing that over the coming months. Christchurch
Mayor Leanne Dalzell pleased to have the support of Ngāi Tahu within the council.
This is a huge advance for us, and we are honoured that you have come.
Ngāi Tahu took the opportunity to address Christchurch City councillors, the iwi making sure the long-term plan acknowledges mana whenua. This refers to the mana held by local people who have demonstrated authority over land or territory in a particular area, authority which is derived through whakapapa links. In this case, it's Ngāi Tahu, and the iwi wants to make its position clear.
It is hoped that our submission outlines the extent of our interests as mana whenua within the city and in the activities that your council has responsibility for.
Within its submission, Ngāi Tahu outlines a request for the council to be bold and incorporate a transformational project that enables all of Christchurch to participate in thinking about how the city uses natural resources. Another idea is for the council to commit to growing and developing Māori arts and festivals. This is something that is not currently in the long-term plan. Social housing is also under the spotlight, with a recent debate between councillors over whether or not the City Council should support the homeless. Ngāi Tahu's submission outlines an interest in being involved in future housing projects, as the iwi is required to look after all people who need housing assistance.
Our interests are quite broad-reaching, both within terms of what the city does on a day-to-day basis and the recovery, and in all of those things we look forward to building a a much greater relationship with the City Council.
Mayor Dalzell impressed by the iwi's interaction with the council.
You know, the fact that you read the consultation document and looked at our long-term plan, the fact that you put together such a comprehensive submission, and the fact that you came here today, I just think it's been tremendous.
Signalling this won't be the only time the council works directly with Ngāi Tahu when planning the future of Christchurch City.
It's not the first part of our engagement, and it's certainly not the last part of our engagement, so thank you very, very much.
The Christchurch City Council hopes to continue to build its relationship with the iwi moving forward. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
Canterbury Police want to hear from anyone who may have seen a missing Selwyn man. 24-year-old Casey Broadhurst has not been in contact with his family since Monday, which they say is out of character. He drives a white 2006 Holden Commodore, similar to this model in the picture as you can see now. He's described as European, about 170 centimetres tall, of medium to solid build, with ginger hair. Anyone who has seen Casey is asked to contact police. An arts group has come to the Christchurch City Council with solutions, not just problems. They were one of several groups to address the council today during the second day of long-term plan hearings. Marcus Gibbs reports.
Christchurch's arts community asking the City Council to help it solve a problem.
We just see the arts generally just so necessary, and we totally can't go it alone.
The problem is this arts community can't survive on its own. It needs funding from the City Council.
A lively arts presence in any culture can really never be self-supporting.
So the solution? Arts Canterbury is proposing a new grant structure for arts organisations. Under the proposal, a new policy standing committee would be formed to coordinate the council's role in the arts of the city. Up to 3 Christchurch City councillors would represent the council on this committee, along with arts advisors. These would be representatives of the practising arts and benefactors. Arts Canterbury is suggesting a 3-tiered funding structure that would cover citywide public events and festivals, art in public places, and major one-off events. Direct annual grants that aren't contestable would then fund major organisations such as the Christchurch Art Gallery, the Symphony Orchestra, the Court Theatre and the Isaac Theatre Royal. The committee would liaise with Creative New Zealand to ensure the funding distribution is fair. The city's mayor is a strong supporter of the proposal.
But your concept of a funding structure that actually combines what the council can contribute, and it is limited, to what we can contribute, to a combined approach with what others contribute, to me, that's what's music to my ears.
A funding model like this is exactly what the mayor wants to adopt.
Who are the other funders, and to see whether the combined approach can actually produce a much better outcome, but also a more secure outcome.
The arts community is important to the mayor and her councillors.
I guess our cultural infrastructure, our symphony orchestra, our theatre, professional theatre, you know, all of these things are part of who we are as a city.
Currently, art organisations are confused over what grants they are eligible to apply for. Within its submission, Arts Canterbury says current civic funding of the arts is fragmented into a number of sections of council that makes it very difficult for artists and art organisations to know where and how they should seek financial assistance.
Often been in a position of not knowing who or what to apply for in order to obtain some financial support. There
did seem to be quite a disconnected approach to art, so I think that's something that we can take on board as a council and look at the way that component is structured.
The Christchurch City Council also heard from other arts organisations about their individual needs throughout the second day of the draft annual plan hearings. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
Well, still to come here on CTV News, Associate Earthquake Recovery Minister Nikki Wagner joins me to discuss the new Earthquake Memorial.
Hi, I'm Chris Lynch. Join me every Monday at 8:30 on CTV as we discuss the issues affecting you, your family and everything to do with Canterbury. That's CTV 8:30 right here.
Computer not working? Replace or repair? DIY or get a technician? Looking for parts? Thinking of upgrading? Need accessories? You've got questions, we've got answers. Global PC.
The preparation, the devotion, the fearlessness, the intensity. Runway model management. First impressions are everything.
Made to measure interiors, made with care, made for you.
Join Graham Sinclair and the team at Gone Fishing as they bring you great stories, fishing tips and beautiful scenery. Gone Fishing, Friday night at 8:30, right here on CTV.
And welcome back to CTV News. Well, as we reported earlier in the bulletin, the design for the earthquake memorial has now been chosen, which needs to acknowledge one of the nation's worst natural disasters. A lot has gone into creating a design which reflects what the city needs and what it's been through, and also a poignant reminder for future generations. And joining me now is Associate Earthquake Recovery Minister Nikki Wagner. Nikki, thank you so much for joining me today. Let's just talk about the winning design. Why was that one chosen out of all the other 6 in total? Why was this one chosen?
I think it was chosen because it empathised with most Cantabrians. I think it's a really good use of the site, and most people seem to warm to it. And it was interesting because 330 original designs, down to 6, all those developed. But in the end, this was the one that came up to the top, and people seem to be supporting it really well.
And obviously it must have been quite a hard decision as well. Obviously, as you just said, the staff is 331, which is a lot, isn't it? From 37 countries, wasn't it?
Absolutely amazing. People really thought hard about this. Obviously, it was a huge event, and it affected people, and affected a wide range of people right around the world. And this one that's been chosen, the designer comes all the way from Slovenia, which has a history of earthquakes. And it's fascinating that he could empathise and resonate with Canterbury.
What was the response like from the families affected by the earthquake as well? What was their direct response to you?
Well, they've been in the process right from the very beginning, and of course developing Earthquake Memorial is more than just building the memorial. Research tells us that the process that you go through is particularly important. And so we started with those 330, and the families were involved with looking at all of those, with coming up with the 6 that finalised, and then talking about those 6, and then talking about the final one. So they've gone step and step all the way through.
Definitely. I want to talk about that process too, because it got narrowed down to the 6 earlier this year. What happened between that process and now? What's all happened from there to now?
Well, there's been 2,800 submissions. There's been expert looking at each of them to see how you build it and how it would work. And then there's been stakeholders talking about it. Finally, we came through the submissions to this final process. Then it went to the leadership group, which was involved with Ngāi Tahu, the Minister of Culture and Heritage. I was involved in that, and the Mayor, and we finally agreed with what they came up with, and then we took it to Jerry Brownlee, who finally put the stamp on it.
Definitely. Let's talk about those submissions as well. Was there similar trends from the feedback that had come in about this memorial in particular?
Yes, I think so. First of all, of course, we want to remember the people who were lost on that day and have a place for the families to feel that they can come to, but also we want it to have a bigger space so that the community and everybody else that was affected can be involved and can remember the first responders, the people who really went and helped after the earthquakes, the fire people, the in the USAR, the Urban Search and Rescue, and everyone that came to the support of Christchurch. So it's a very big picture. It has to fill a lot of roles, and I think this one really does.
That's definitely right. I think that's the one thing we have to remember. It happened in Christchurch, but then there's Canterbury, then there's New Zealand, there's also the wider world as well. It has to all reflect that too, doesn't it?
And I think we feel that looking at Nepal too. We feel linked up with what's happening there. So it is a global response.
Definitely. Let's talk about now the actual design of it now. Now, we've seen a few pictures of it. There's obviously a wall that's going to be made with some different features of trees and stuff. Do you want to just elaborate more of what Canterburyans will expect to see?
Yes, it's a beautiful memorial. It goes on both sides of the river, so the wall is actually on the south side of the river, and I like that because there's going to be a promenade walking along behind it, so it's going to be part of where people walk and gather, but also you'll be able to sit in front of that wall in the sun and look across to the other side of the river, which will have some seating for families, a more sort of intimate setting. So it's 150 metres long, so it's a long wall, and it will be linked with a footbridge across the end, so you'll be able to do a whole circuit, a bit like a journey, round the wall, look at the names, see about the first responders, across to a quieter, reflective place, and then back to the beginning again.
And it will cost, is it $10 million from the government and there's $1 million from council?
Absolutely, and we know that we've had a good look at this and we think it's going to be within budget, which is always a good thing.
Fantastic, that's great news. Thank you so much for coming in. Nikki Wagner, the Associate Earthquake Recovery Minister. What's still to come here on CTV News, your region's weather.
Kids television is right here on CTV. Tune in every Saturday from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. for an exciting range of fantastic kids programming. Join in with all the fun Saturday mornings from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. on CTV.
At Bowden Environmental, we specialise in all aspects of resource management, so you don't have to deal with the paperwork. With the skills and knowledge to organise any environmental work, we can guide you through the process from start to finish. From organising consents and farm environmental plans to pump and well testing, Bowden Environmental has it covered. Save time and remove the stress. See the specialist. Bowden Environmental. Computer not working? Replace or repair. DIY or get a technician. Looking for parts? Thinking of upgrading? Need accessories? You've got questions, we've got answers. Global PC.
Come on down to Ferrymead Golf. Care for a game of paintball? How about some swings on the old driving range? Or on our par 3 9-hole golf course? Test your skills on the mini golf course or have a go at the airgun shooting range. Then relax at the Wow Cafe with one of our super succulent Wow Burgers. Whether you want to perfect your swing or are looking for a fun family day out, come down to Ferrymead Golf, 50 Ferrymead Park Drive, right next to the Ferrymead Heritage Park.
Arts 21 showcases the vast creative talent and minds that are making a name for themselves in Europe and beyond. Think outside the square with Arts 21.
Welcome back. More on today's council hearings. Should the council be focused on running rather than owning its assets? The Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce was again pushing for the sale of the city's libraries. After lengthy discussions from the public through the Mayor and the Chair sessions and online submissions, hearings are continuing at the Christchurch City Council. The long-term plan is being discussed in the council chamber, with Peter Townsend having concerns around the council's assets. He says the council should consider selling its libraries to help with their financial woes.
Let me make it very clear that the council is the logical and necessary provider of library services. That service continues via the council is not for debate. What is clear, however, that the council does not necessarily need to own the asset, i.e. the building that the library sits in, to continue to provide a quality library service.
Currently, the council owns around 20 libraries across the city, with a new central library due for completion by 2018. It's one of the city's major projects, with the building coming in at around $85 million and would be located on the corner of Colombo and Gloucester Streets. But Townsend says private investors should take care of the site and council provide the service within it. Back in April 2013, one of the council's libraries and service centres relocated to a nearby mall in Linwood following severe damage to their facilities. And the Mayor says it's an idea that would work in other suburbs around the city as well.
Linwood Library is now hosted by the Eastgate Mall, and the council doesn't own the Eastgate Mall, and actually the feedback that we've had from a lot of our users of that library service is that they love the fact that it's in the mall.
But it wasn't just libraries Townsend was identifying in his submissions to the council's draft long-term plan. He says he wants to see all other council-owned assets looked at the same way.
If you have an asset, it could be a library, it could be a community centre, it could be a town hall, it could be anything. If it comes down to a choice of having that service or not having that service because you can't afford to own the asset that's in and you don't need to own the asset to provide the service, what's your decision going to be?
The Chamber of Commerce is also concerned about two of the council's largest assets, Christchurch International Airport and the Port of Littleton.
We need to think long term about how we position our assets so that they benefit our community. I'm very, very conscious of the fact that the Port of Tauranga has invested in the Port of Timaru, and that they're using the Port of Timaru as a feeder into the Port of Tauranga, and we're sitting with our port in isolation in between. I'm very conscious of the fact that Auckland Airport has invested into Queenstown Airport, and there are now more Trans-Tasman flights at peak going into Queenstown than there are coming into Christchurch.
So it's food for thought for the council as they continue with ideas around selling assets and how they'll be managed in the long term. Jared McCulloch, CTV News. It was easy to get over 1,000 young students to Wigram Air Force Museum in Christchurch to talk about leadership. Just add one local pop star. Here's William Kartai.
They've come far and wide to be inspired to achieve. The National Young Leaders Day has been going on for nearly 15 years, annually travelling from Dunedin up to Auckland. This week they've stopped off at the Air Force Museum in Christchurch, which was a sold-out crowd. Around 1,300 young students gathered to hear from inspirational leaders from around the country. And one of the organisers of the event says it's all about engaging the younger generation, preparing them for the future.
The reason for starting these primary and intermediate events is because we believe that if we inspire them at this age, that they can go on to secondary school, they can go on to intermediate and university, taking the skills and values that they've learned today to help them become better leaders.
It's all about developing leadership skills for those who are top of their fields at school or anyone who wants to grow as a leader. Both primary and intermediate schools from around Canterbury and as far away as Blenheim to hear from a number of talented Kiwis. And it's not all speakers from one chosen field. Kingsbear says they try to mix it up every year to provide a variety for their young students.
We try to choose speakers that have been in sporting backgrounds, entertainment, some political speakers as well, so they can come to the students and talk about their diverse experiences and what they've learned on their own journeys.
Singer-songwriter Jamie McDowell was one of the speakers on the tour who had been involved for the last couple of years. Her music career kicked off back in 2012, being signed while she was still at high school. Now with the Vodafone New Zealand Music Award under her belt, she's now speaker for the event.
I used to come on the tours just to kind of sing a few songs and answer some questions, but now, a few years later, I'm actually here to speak as a speaker, which is a really huge achievement for me.
She knows the event well, being one of the youngsters at the event when she was back at intermediate school. And McDowell says the message she wants to get across is that anyone can be a leader.
Music is half of what I do, but I love being able to share a message. And as I said, when I was a young kid, I was going along to these events and just being really inspired, but also reassured that, you know, regular, everyday people can do amazing things. And I think that's what's amazing about the group we've got here is that none of us are superheroes. You know, we've all come from different places, but we managed to make our lives work in a certain way that lets us lead others.
And there were a few Jamie McDowell fans in the crowd taking on board what she had to say.
She doesn't care what other people think, like, about her.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
She's really pretty, by the way.
It was
just amazing, you know?
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Mind-blowing.
I'm enjoying it. Like, it's going to set up my future. Like, I've always wanted to be, like, a chemist or something. Like, wanted to play around with elements and chemicals. So now that I know that if I dream it like I am, I can do it. So, yeah, it's really good.
The tour now continues next month in Auckland to another sell-out crowd. William Kartai, CTV News.
Very nice. Well, time now for your region's weather.
Down in Timaru, you had a high of 16 today. Temuka and Geraldine, you were also both on 16 degrees.
Methven, you are slightly warmer with 17. Ashburton and Rakaia, 16 degrees for you. Darfield, you at a high of 17 today. Leeston and Rolleston, you both shared 18. Lincoln and Christchurch, 18 degrees for your Wednesday. Down in Akaroa, 19 degrees for you.
So what are you doing on Friday?
Rangiora, Kaipoi and Amberley, you are also all on 19 degrees.
Do you get a break?
Taking a look further inland, Calderton, Hamner Springs and Cheviot, 16 degrees for your Wednesday. Kaikoura, you had a high of 19. Now to tomorrow's temperatures. Timaru, mostly fine with thick high cloud and decreasing northerly winds. Tonight's low 9, tomorrow's high 16.
For whatever reason.
Ashburton, high cloud is the backdrop for your Thursday with mild northerly winds decreasing during the day. Tonight's low 9, tomorrow's high 16 degrees.
When you hurt me and if you loved me. For whatever reason.
To the Garden City now, a fine Thursday ahead with plenty of high cloud and some northerly breeze. Tonight's low 9, tomorrow's high 17. Kaikoura, mostly fine with thick high cloud and decreasing northerly winds. Tonight's low 9, tomorrow's high 17 degrees.
It's always nice to see you.
In other areas around the region now, expect a mild and cloudy day. Temuka and Geraldine, cloudy with a high of 15. Methven and Rakaia, you can expect 16 degrees. Darfield, Leeston and Rolleston, 16 for you also. Looking to Lincoln, cloudy and a high of 16 for you. Over in Akaroa, you can expect a high of 16 degrees for your Thursday. Rangiora, Kaipoi and Amberley, 16 for you as well.
For whatever reason. I can't seem to find.
Up north in Calderton, Hamner Springs and Cheviot, a high of 15 degrees for you. Looking ahead for Canterbury, cloudy on Friday with a period of rain and fresh cold southwesterly winds. Showers clearing but remaining cloudy and cold on Saturday with gusty southwesterlies becoming strong at times. Mostly cloudy on Sunday but a few sunny periods developing later in the day, cold with northeasterlies developing. Westerlies freshening and cold increasing on Monday, cooler southwesterlies later on with a risk of brief showers. Mostly fine and sunny on Tuesday with light northeasterlies. And that's your weather update for Wednesday.
And that's CTV News for Wednesday. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Jared McCulloch. Good evening.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.